Hello everyone. Hello, welcome to the stream. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody doing good? Awesome. We are live. Today, we are going to continue our incredible fishing journey that we started yesterday. We reached all the way to 75, from 0 to 75, and today we're gonna try to see if we can get all the way to maybe 150. 150 would be the goal if possible. That would be pretty amazing. If we can get to 150, I would be pretty happy with myself. We also have a special guest today on stream. My fiance is here today, so you might notice her walking around. All right, so I hope everybody had a good day. Today, like I said, we're gonna be continuing the stream. We're gonna be continuing the fishing journey. One thing, I'm opening up my, I have my notes here on my cell phone. It's still like what I'm supposed to do to make sure that we progress our skills in fishing. So the next thing I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to find a way to obviously buy new cooking skills to 100, 250, which I think I did. I think I did that already. And then I would cook the fishes that we got until 110. But I also need to go do a little bit of outside world questing in Desolus. There is a fishing rod that is called the Big Iron Fishing Pole that you need to swim in the water south of Shadow Prey Village, and there are a bunch of like shellfish cages in there, and you like basically loot the cages and stuff, and you have a chance of getting that pole, which you can only equip once you have 100 rating in fishing. But that pole has like like a lower drop chance and all of that stuff, so it might not like it might take a while before being able to get it, but it's something we have to do. It's like part of the plan, so obviously we're gonna go do it. Got to be part of our journey today. So let's hop right into it. Oh, look at this beauty. Look at this guy. He's ready to go, ready to rock and roll with his pink shirt and his admiral hat. I spent about 20 goals on that outfit. If people didn't know, I did that yesterday. Wait, let me do a little chance sound check. All right. Can clearly hear me here? All right, so with our amazing fishing equipments, our really cool hat and fishing pole and pink shirt, we are entering the world of Warcraft. I like how my that's actually so funny. So I put Streamlabs as a moderator on my stream. So I set it up today. I spent some time setting up my Streamlab to make sure that it's moderator on the screen. And I said that like they would refrain from posting links so that people can just link stuff that's gonna get me in trouble. And the system I'm using for the music, which is called Pretzel Rock, they just automatically kind of like link in the chat what is the song that's playing. But now they can't link anything because like the app Pretzel Rock has actually been timed out by my it's been timed out by my automatic moderator, which is actually quite funny. Alrighty, so did we purchase a skill in cooking? We have 150. All right. So now what we need to find is a fire. Is there a fire in here? It's done now. I think the fire is in I know there's one in like the Dwarven district. So I guess we're gonna go check out there. So did anything happen today? Anything special happen? Everyone had a good day? I certainly had a good day. It was a pretty relaxed day for me today, I'd say. Did some stuff in the morning, did some prep, you know, like prep stuff for the stream. Like I said, I set up my moderator with Streamlabs and all of that stuff because I am using Streamlab as the system to stream. But the sorry, I don't know why I'm losing my train of thought, mate. Okay, we're gonna cook these snappers while I and nobody's gonna be in the way like it was yesterday. Remember people over there yesterday, that little gnome that was just literally in me, like his face was in my rib cage as I was cooking stuff. So it's not gonna happen today. All right. Unfortunately, I think I'm gonna have to set it up, and maybe tomorrow I'm gonna have to fix this. But for all of you that's gonna be in the chat today, most likely you won't be able to see the songs that are gonna be linked because my Streamlab moderator is gonna automatically time out every single link from the music app. So sorry, folks, but the way it is, I'm supposed to be able to cook these fish until like about like 110 apparently, but I really think it's gonna get me way higher than this. Like I'm already at 90 and there's like 45 fishes left and it's still orange. They just switched to yellow obviously, but all right, so just to give you a little idea of the plan of like what it's going to be like today. So what's going to happen is as soon as we're going to be done cooking these fishes, it's going to get us as high as we can. Like ideally, we want it to be at least 110, but it doesn't mean it's going to get us there. But we're going to cook whatever we have. Every single long jaw mud snapper is going to be cooked. Whenever that's done, we're going to head towards Desolus. And in Desolus, we are going to go get that big iron fishing pole. And we are not going to continue with moving forward until we have this fishing pole with us. Now, it's advisable for us to go buy some water breathing elixirs so we can actually be underwater for a long period of time while looking for the fishing pole, while opening these iron cages. But anyway, whenever all of this is done and it's set up, the next place that we have to go is South Shore. So we're gonna have to go buy some recipes in South Shore. And then right behind the South Shore town, right behind the town, that is actually going to be, there's like a little river. For all of you to remember, when you quest in Hillsbrad Foothills, there is a quest that requires you to take like turtle meat. You have to kill a bunch of turtles like on the river. And, it's basically that same river that just flows all the way to the ocean kind of thing. This is the same river that we're supposed to fish in. I don't know if there's a name for that particular river, but I'm sure y'all just know the location already. And what we're looking for is the bristle whiskey or whisker, whatever. I think it's whisker. Bristle whisker catfish is what we're trying to fish today. This is what is going to bring us to all the way to 150. All right, so we're almost done with the thing. Not too bad. Not 114. I'd like it if we could at least finish at 115. That'd be pretty cool. I like how if you eat like the raw long jaw mud snapper, it gives you 61 health over 18 seconds, and when you cook it, it makes it that it restores more health. I kind of doubt that. like biologically speaking, you actually lose nutriments when you cook food. So it's kind of weird that cooked food is supposed to restore more health, because I don't think that's biologically accurate. Alrighty, we got our things done. It got us all the way to 116, which is pretty good. It's 6 more skills than we're supposed to have technically at this point, so that's always welcome. We like taking these little extras. Gonna go sell them. No, I just need someone to sell. Supplies, there you go, that's what we need. Great to meet you too. Alright. And what we are going to... Actually, we're going to take the tram. It's literally right there. And we need to go to Dessel. It's better to go to Dustwallow Marsh anyway. So, for those who've never played World of Warcraft anymore... not anymore. For those who have never played World of Warcraft at all... Basically, this Deep Run tram is a subway system that connects 2 major cities. The major city of the dwarves and the major city of the humans. It is the fastest way to travel between them. And there's going to be a small moment, which is the highlight of the whole ride. There's going to be a small moment where we're going to be like underwater. And then you can see a really cool like underwater, like it looks like a huge aquarium kind of thing. And there's like a Loch Ness monster kind of creature in there. You have to be pretty quick to actually like figure it out and look it up. So this is the thing. This is the aquarium. Are we going to see the monster? Did we find it? Nah, too late. We missed it. Sorry, folks. Actually, one time when I played this game like 15 years ago. So I was like 15, you know, like obviously I was like just a kid and stuff. And I like right now when I play the game, you know, I like to kind of like rush my way to 60 and then farm the gear and like clear the content. And I'm very kind of switched the mindset to be a lot more about, you know, like optimization, getting more powerful, like all of that stuff. But when I was playing back then, I honestly I had like, I don't know, I had like 12 different characters, and I think that none of them were higher than like level 20. I just loved having like 10,000 alts that wouldn't get me anywhere, and I would just play to like explore the world and just, you know, it was just, I would take this as just kind of like an exploration game of just like hanging out, visiting new places. Like I remember like when I started playing this game, I played Warcraft 3 before. So all of the lore and all of the story of Warcraft 3, I knew that when I started World of Warcraft. And I would do that thing where like, yeah, I know some like, you know, it probably makes me the nerdiest person out there, but like I was doing that thing that like I would go, for example, Terramore. I would land into Terramore, and then I would be like in front of like Jaina Proudmoore in Terramore, and I would literally sit there, like sit back, and my like, you know, imagine my like 15-year-old self. I would like sit back, and I'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe that I'm standing in front of Jaina Proudmoore. You know, like this is literally what I was doing at 15 years old playing the game. It's such, I don't know, it was such a cool feeling. It was very RP, very like exploratory, and everything in the game, like, you know, when they announced so many different things with like Outlands coming out and the coming back of Illidan and like, you know, eventually Death Knights, it was just like what the thing that really always pumped me up was the connection to the lore. That, and even to this day when they release new expansions and stuff like that, I don't play retail WoW anymore, but I still watch the lore videos. I want to know about like how they expand the World of Warcraft universe, how they connect things together, like the role that new role that characters are playing and connections with the past and stuff. And it's always been really, really important to me playing this game. And it's one of the things that keeps me hooked in this game so much is I know the story, I know the characters, I know where they're coming from, I know what they've been through, and it makes me more like emotionally attached to the game. And right now it's just like when I play, you know, like I don't have these things anymore. They're like when I see Jaina Proudmoore, I just like, okay, like I move on, I just pick the quest and go kind of thing, you know. I've lost that part, and Kind of sucks. Like, oh, this is so pretty. Look at this. Look at this beautiful view. The melting snow that becomes a waterfall on the side of a mountain that lands on a small little pond near a cute little farm. And we're arriving at Menethil Harbor. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a boat that is going to get us across continents. Because we need to go, the next place we have to go is across continent to go grab that fishing pole. Oh, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. I forgot to buy these water elixirs.
Well met.
Shit. Okay, we're doing it. We're going back. All that flight time for nothing. Oh, we might be able to see the beautiful view again. Let's hope. I know that it's a thing that Blizzard actually talked about that a few times when they were creating their games. Is this where it is? Yeah, this is. Nah, we missed it. I think it's like over there. Okay. Blizzard actually shared that when they created their game. It's like they like having these like places that are inaccessible. So like for example here, you see there's a plane in the mountain and there's like debris. And it's actually maybe except if you do like wall jumping and like all of that stuff, which I don't know like how to do in these places, but like they actually put little sites like this that are not accessible by players, but they still fill it up with things just because it makes you something to look at when you fly around the map. Like this little camp here, I wouldn't be surprised if you can't reach it. Or maybe you can actually, I don't know. But when you're there, when you're on the flying path, it gives you something to look at. Oh, hello. Hello, Shalene Isaacs. My incredibly beautiful, intelligent, brilliant, and strong fiance here in the chat saying hello. Although she's literally right there. Right there. Nobody can see her right now, but she is sitting right there. I can't promise you, chat, I cannot promise you that it is going to happen. I can't promise you. But there is a small chance, a very tiny small chance that I will be teaching my fiance how to fish in World of Warcraft. A very tiny small chance. I've been told a little bird just sang in my ear, I don't think so. I doubt it's gonna happen, but maybe it will. We have to keep our hopes up. Okay, so we want water breathing something. Elixir of water breathing. How is greater water breathing less expensive? How is a 1 hour water breathing buff more expensive than a 30-minute one? This is ridiculous. Okay, which one's the cheapest? Let's just go with the cheapest because you know that's how we roll, chat. That's how we roll. Let's buy 2. Because let's be honest, if I don't have this rod after 1 hour, 2 hour, there is a problem. So I just clicked on an item, as you can see. I literally just clicked on an item that is called the Queen's Jewel. And I'm not sure what to think of it. Also, at some point, I will have... I don't think... Can you folks see it? Yeah. I'm so close. I'm 290 enchanting. I will have to do whatever it takes to be able to level up my enchanting, but... I just need to do a bunch of dungeons, get some greens, disenchant them and stuff, and I don't know how much I'll be able to like how long it would take me, because it actually requires so much material. Like, look at that. I need do I have this? I do. I just need illusion dusts. Okay, I have all the mats. I just need illusion dust. But like, look at that, 8 illusion dust just to be able to craft one of these. So just to level up these 10 skills, I would need 80 illusion dust. And oftentimes when I disenchant one item, it was gonna give me like maybe 2, 3 if I'm lucky. But I need to find an efficient way to be able to farm like 50 plus green items for me to disenchant. Maybe I can just buy them at the auction house, to be honest, but I don't know. Are we risking it, chat? Because look at that. I can equip all of my gear, right? All of my gear. I can equip it. And because we're gonna go to Desolus, right? We're gonna go in Desolus, or literally south of Shadowprey Village, which is a horde zone, and we're Alliance. So any single person that's gonna see us that comes from there will want to like unscrew our heads from our body. This is literally what's gonna happen. And if we have no gear because we're trying to look cool, then we might get absolutely pulverized. I'm considering putting back my gear on for the time that I find this fishing pole we're talking about. But at the same time, I don't know if I should. Like, just no. You know what? I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna own the style. We're gonna go for style, and I think that when the horde is gonna see how freaking incredible my dwarf look, nobody will want to attack me. They're gonna see my admiral hat with my incredible pink shirt, and they're going to be, this guy is just way too styly, way too powerful. We know he's some kind of like incredibly wise character, and therefore we should not attack him. But we're gonna let our style save our asses is what we're gonna do. Oh yeah, I was starting to talk about that. That's what I did. I was talking about that stuff earlier, and I actually what is it, like lose my train of thought, but I just got it back, chat. Oh, I just got it back. So what I was saying is that I was talking about my day. I was talking about that today I took some time to figure out stuff about stream, you know, about content. And I, you know, had conversations with my incredibly perfect fiance. But I also took the time to start building up a script for a YouTube video I'm going to do. So for those who don't know, are in the chat, if you type !info, actually let me do it. Oh, it's gonna be funny. Let's see if my Streamlab actually moderates this. No, because Streamlab is actually the thing posting it. Okay. So in the chat, when you type !info, it gives you the link to one video on my YouTube channel, and the video is about, I literally just explained like what the channel is about. I explained a little bit about myself, about my past, about what I want to do with my channel and stuff. So if you're interested into that, click on the video. It's a 5-minute video. It's not too long. There's like timestamps in case you want to like move to some particular parts that are more relevant to you. And so what I want to do is I want to create a video about tea. I am a huge tea fanatic. For the people that have been there for the last few streams, like you see that at the moment someone asks me a question about tea, I literally just go on a freaking tangent for hours. So I decided to do a video that is going to be a kind of like introduction to tea fundamentals, I would say. But it starts with like, we're gonna talk about like, that's what the thing that I've been building. I've been looking up at like, you know, some of my different sources and experience. I'm going to be talking a little bit about my past, my experience with tea, where my passion for tea comes from, when did I learn about it, and I did some stuff in my own life that involved like tea, like I like ran a startup tea company in Montreal. So before moving in to do my master's, so like I want to talk a little bit about my history and my journey around tea, and then I started to like gather information about, you know, like the history of it, like where does it come from, how was it discovered, and sometimes these stories have like, you know, mythical origins because they've been discovered like a long time ago in China, so they have like mythological origins, and there's some like archaeological stuff to kind of like either prove it or disprove it or something like that. And then so I'm talking about like its origin, its mythology. I'm also going to be talking about the what is it, like the what's it called, like different sources, but like not necessarily sources about tea specifically, but more sources like you know, like there's been a lot of treaties, like, so the first treaty that's ever been written about tea, the first thing that's ever been written, like a book, treaty exclusively dedicated to tea, was written in 760 in China. But the first reference to boiling tea leaf was in 52 BCE. So like minus 52, if you like. It was the first reference to tea. So I'm talking about like these sources, you know, like what's the first time it was mentioned, what was it saying about it, what is like the first treaty on tea was composed in 760, and what are some of like the key points that this person's saying. But then I'm also talking about, there is this monk Eisai, or Yosai, he's a Japanese monk, that he basically went to China in he did like three trips to China. But when he came back to Japan in 1191, he brought back like tea seeds, and so they started growing like tea trees and like whatever. And it's kind of, apparently it's like because of him that the tea traditions started in Japan. Before that, it wasn't a thing. So he's the one that like brought back, and he's a Rinzai Zen monk. So when he brought back the tea stuff in 12, I think it's like 1212 or 1211 or something like that, he wrote a book on tea, but it's a very much like medicinal treatise on tea, of like how it's used in the body. And it's really cool about it is that in this book it talks about like how it connects with like how medicine was perceived at the time, which is not just medicine, you know, in terms of like drink tea, it's gonna get rid of your headache. Like there are stuff like that. There are medicinal treaties that use tea to treat like illnesses and treats like stuff like that. But this guy was kind of like, it's talking about like the 5 elements theory. So like most people that play video games, you know, in fantasy games, understand the 5 elements, or at least the 4 elements, which is like air, water, fire, and earth. But in China, there's a different one, which is metal, or you have wood, depending on like the tradition. So you have a 5th element that is metal. And people that play Pokemon know that very well. And what happens is the 5 elements that are out there in the world are connected with the 5 internal organs that generate chi in the body, or disseminate chi and like are responsible for health, which is heart, liver, lungs, spleen, and kidneys. So each element, so like fire is like, for example, I think fire is like kidney, lung is hair, obviously, and stuff like that. Air, not hair, air. So you have all these like stuff is like interconnected. And then this guy also talks about how the specific element is connected with a particular internal organ, and that internal organ is connected with a particular taste. So for example, eating something bitter would be very good for the heart, and it's connected with like that particular element. So that's kind of like how it operates. So, and he had this guy developed a theory, actually a theory, a medicinal theory in the 13th century, that basically said, he said, a lot of Japanese people have heart disease because they don't eat enough bitter foods. Because for that, in that framework of understanding the way the world works, that rationale make perfect sense. If you have bitterness, and bitterness is a taste that's associated with the heart, then it means if you have heart problems, you just eat more bitter stuff. And tea was actually really good for that, because the way Japanese tea became like produced over the time, whatever, has, you can make tea to be like taste very bitter if you cut the leaves very short. And if you transform it, eventually it got transformed into like matcha, which is also very, you can make matcha very bitter. So all of that to say that like there is an unfolding of that, of the understanding of tea and how it relates to health and how it relates to like cosmology and everything of like of that worldview, which is, it's such a fascinating treatise. I think it is actually, but anyway. So I explore in a like 1 or 2 sentences what I literally just described to you in way more detail. And then I talk about a modern work that's called The Book of Tea, which was written by Okakura Kakuzo in the, like, I think it was 1906, I believe. And it's just a guy that like when Japan modernized in the, what it's called, like the Meiji period. So they went out of medieval Japan in like 1868, and it started the unfolding of like the period of like really rapid modernization and industrialization of Japan, because it basically opened up to like Western influence. And in that moment, this guy Okakura Kakuzo, he wrote the Book of Tea specifically for a Western audience. So Okakura was like, he grew up as a child learning English. He was very well versed in English, and he wrote the book in Japanese, but also in English, to teach kind of like the Western world about Japanese culture. And he used the tea, and particularly the tea ceremony, as a way to like teach the Western world Japanese aesthetics and Japanese artistic culture. So it's a very iconic, it's a problematic work because it's there's some like, anyway, there is some problem because it's attached to a kind of like nationalistic history as well, that's been appropriated later by nationalistic parties for like World War II and stuff like that. So it's like, but it's still a very interesting treatise of how would a Japanese person at the turn of the 20th century would like to see the rest of the world see Japan. I'm going to teach the rest of the world how Japanese culture is, and I'm going to use tea as a way to introduce the Western world to us. So I think it's a very cool concept, and it shows the kind of like this desire that this person had to use tea as a medium for intercultural dialogue, which I think is really important, because my work is about intercultural dialogue between like classical cultures and modern world. So anyway, all that to say that this guy had a really cool essay, really cool work, really iconic work as well. And so I'm talking a little bit about this in the video, but again, in a very, very succinct way. Like this entire section that I'm just talking about, like the different sources, who wrote it at what time, it's not gonna be more than like 1 minute of like that video. But it's just to show people like what's out there, and like if it's interesting to you, and if you're like, hey, this thing about the Book of Tea, or like the 12th century guy that wrote about medicine and the 5 elements and used tea for that, whatever, it's super interesting, then at least like you'll have the name, you'll have the book, you'll have like the period of time, and then if you want, you can find it on your own. There are some translations of it, so you can find it on your own and then look it up yourself if you want to. So that's kind of like the purpose. So I wrote a little bit about that too, but also like the language component of tea, like how it's pronounced and what is said, and like the many ways it's like pronounced across the world. There's like 3 different derivatives. If I can do a little summary, it's like you have three little derivatives. You can either call it a derivative of cha, a derivative of chai, or a derivative of te. They all come from China, because that's where tea was like discovered. And basically you had like in the like immediate sphere of influence of the Chinese world, so like Korea, Japan, maybe like even like Philippines to some extent, like the South China Sea, a little bit around it, like Tibet, Nepal, Laos, Cambodia, like all these places, Vietnam, all of it, most of it is like about like I think it's like 30 languages or something like that that calls it cha, or a variant of cha. But then that variant of cha, when it traveled north of China, it crossed over to like the Persian world, and it was an encounter with the Persian Empire and Persian influences. And then the Persian influenced world took the word cha and transformed it into chai. And then chai became exported to a huge part of the world, which is like, you know, I think it's something around the lines of like 20 or 30 different languages around the world called tea chai. And I think it's interesting because for us in the Western world, modern contemporary Western world, it's like, you know, it's like you go to Starbucks and you order like a chai tea, you know, like a chai latte. But like when you need to realize that when you order a chai tea, basically what you're saying to the person is, I want a tea. Because chai means tea. Chai is not a flavor. It's literally the word for tea in languages, in about 20 languages across the world. But because the Persian Empire was so big and so vast and so influential, you also have like chai, or tsai is one of the way that you say tea in Greece. But it's also one way that you say tea in Turkey, even to this day. And in some region of the south of Spain, when the Muslim Empire kind of like grew in the 13th century and 14th century, and it grew all the way to conquer all the way to the south of France, so all the way Spain and like the south of France, and conquer like a majority of like that region, which is the period of time that we in the Western world call the Dark Ages, or like the medieval ages. It's actually the golden age of the expansion of the Muslim Empire, the Ottoman Empire. Like all of that Persian influence that like permeated these spheres, like led to a bunch of these countries that are very far from China to still call it chai, based on the cha that I discussed earlier. And then te is a particular region of China that calls the kanji for tea, they call it te. And that region is very, like, when colonization happened, there were two main ports that were major trading ports to the Western world. And a lot of people, because they were trading with these two particular ports, they heard people in China call it te. So then they took that, and when they bred it back, they just made a variant. So te is the word to say tea in French, but tea is the way you say it in English. And all of these different variants around te, tea, or something around these lines is the most common way to say tea in languages. It's like over 50 languages in the world use the variants of te, and it's basically due to colonization, because that's when they encountered it, because of these two ports that are part of like a very small region, if you want. So like the majority of the way that we pronounce the word tea right now in the world is due to the influence of two very small port in China that, like, it's not a lot of places in China actually called tea te. But to us, that's what we know, because that was our encounter with Chinese culture through these trading ports for a long time. So anyway, I think these are all very kind of like random tidbits of historical information about like tea and what it is and how it grew to become what it is to us now, and the culture around it, its history, because a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people, even like, British people that are like apparently like the biggest like tea fanatics because they basically stole the land in India to produce tea. It's like it's like such a like huge thing, like there's a tea culture and all that stuff. But oftentimes, like most of the time when I had conversation with people like around tea, they don't know these kind of stuff. They don't know its story. They don't know its history. They don't know where it's come from. They don't know how it was created, for what purpose, and what kind of world does it belong to. Like I've mentioned earlier, tea was not just like, it wasn't just like a beverage that you put milk and sugar in it. Like tea was literally like a particular taste that was connected with an internal organ, that was connected with like one of the 5 fundamental like elements that organize the entire cosmos. It's like it's way bigger. It was connected to an entire world and an entire understanding of things that is completely fundamentally radical of the way we've completely commodified tea to just become a drink for capitalist consumerist like tastes. and suit Western audience palates of, you know, like drinking it a particular way because it fits with our taste, or like milk and sugar and like all that stuff. It's like, it'd be unfair to say that it's been like that everywhere, because like I know that one of the traditional way to brew tea in India, which is like one of the places that calls it a chai, that calls tea chai, is they would just boil what's it called? They would boil milk, and then from there they would just throw in a bunch of spices in it, and then it would be a mix of like tea and spice that would be put together, and people would just drink it like that because it's good. And so our version of tea, of the chai tea, when we go to, you know, Starbucks, or if you do it yourself at home, the masala chai and like all these kind of like funky words that we hear, is basically just in a way like an appropriation, like a kind of form of cultural appropriation of the kind of one of the traditional way of brewing tea in India, that was about using milk and various spices to make the taste kind of like more interesting. So I don't know, I think these are really cool, like, you know, cultural facts about the spread of tea, where it started, how it evolved, what it became, how it is, and there are many different connections with it. But to this day, there's so many misunderstood facts about, like, you know, for example, the thing that I hear the most is the stuff about like there's caffeine in tea, which is absolutely true. There is caffeine in tea, but the amount of caffeine in tea consists of about like less than 3% of the consistence of the actual molecule formation of the tea. It's actually so small, the amount of caffeine that you have in tea, that it's the effect that it has on your body is actually completely non-existent because it's negated by another component of the tea that is called theanine, which is a calming effect. It's theanine is a thing that basically sounds like, it sends alpha waves to your brain, and it brings you to like a peaceful state of mind, like to very calming, very soothing, very peaceful. And the amount of theanine in tea is so pronounced that it completely overshadows whatever amount of caffeine would be in there, and it has an oppositional effect in your body. So there is caffeine in tea, it's absolutely true, but you will never feel the effect of caffeine in your body when drinking tea, because it's completely negated by another property of the tea itself, which is called theanine. So a lot of people just don't know that stuff, either because they don't care, they don't have the research and whatnot. But like, I have this knowledge for many different reasons, which I'm going to be explaining in that video that you'll be able to see in a few, maybe like in a week or two, on my YouTube channel, Fugeki22. Go check it out. And I will be, you know, posting about like all of that, but also about the you know, like different stuff that people don't know about tea. So for example, they think that like tea is just a bunch of different, like you have a bunch of different plants, I guess, like whatever. But a lot of people, what they don't know is like every single tea that you might think of, like I'm thinking about the kinds of tea, like, you know, like you have, people know like green tea and black tea, like this is what people know. But there's actually like 6 different kinds of tea that you can have. You can have white tea, you can have yellow tea, you can have green tea, you can have oolong tea, you can have black tea, and you can have pu'er tea, which is aged fermented tea. So like all of these different kinds of tea that you can actually drink are just different. It comes with the same plant that is called Camellia sinensis. So you take the same plant from the same tree, the same leaves, the same whatever, and then from there, it's the way that you sorry, I'll check it out later. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the what makes the difference then between a white tea and a fermented pu'er tea, for example, is the process that the tea leaf goes through after the picking. So for example, part of the process, like cutting, would be one step of like the process. So you pick up the leaves, After that, most of the time what they do is like they dry them. So you dry the leaves, and there's many different methods of drying. You can use these spinning things. You can have these like actually using kind of like low temperature, like huge. It looks like huge woks. That's what they look like. So you have these huge, very low temperature woks that you just put the leaves into, and like you shake them around to like dry them. So there's just some of the processes that you go through. So you'd have the picking, which is never included in that because it's a necessary step for all of these. And then you have cutting is one of them. Drying would be one of them. Then you would have like burning, like not drying, but actually kind of like cooking the tea leaves. It's another process. So whatever process the tea leaf goes through after the picking is what determines if the tea is going to be like white or green or black or whatever. So for a tea, in other words, for a tea to be considered a tea, it needs to come from the plant called Camellia sinensis, and then is the process after that changes it. So when people are saying things like, oh, I'm a huge tea fanatics because I drink like chamomile tea before going to bed, they're not drinking tea. And I know it's called chamomile tea. Like, I know it's called, like, it's in the words, like, fugeki, it's in the word, it literally says tea. You don't know what you're talking about. So, chamomile is not Camellia sinensis. It's not the same plant, it's not the same thing. So, you're not actually drinking tea. What you're drinking is just a herbal infusion. You're taking herbs, like chamomile is an herb. You take an herb, and you brew it, you boil it, you infused it, and then you drink the infusion. So the process of infusing a particular herb and drinking it is the same. But it can't be called tea because the only thing that makes something tea is only if it comes from the plant Camellia sinensis, which stuff like chamomile tea isn't. Or rooibos tea is the same thing. Rooibos is a plant that comes from South Africa. It's a very bushy looking plant that is not Camellia sinensis, as you can imagine. So although it is, so basically rooibos is just another form of herbal infusion. So it doesn't take away from the fact that herbal infusion are actually really good for you. They're really good. They're really healthy. There's so many different properties from herbal infusion. Like rooibos is actually one of the plants that can give you the most antioxidants. So it's a very good thing to be able to drink that, but technically it's wrong to call it tea if you really stick into the specifics of it. So anyway, and every single tea, so because of the picking process, right? So a tea that makes a white tea, so in order, if I can do it in order, it's like white tea only has, what makes a tea white tea, it's because it only has 2 steps after the picking process. So it is one of the tea that is the least modified, the most authentic thing you could do. Like, like the closest you have from actually picking the leaf from the tree and brewing it right away without processing it whatsoever, the closest you'll get to this is drinking a white tea. And white tea is rarer, and because the picking process is also, normally white tea is never picked up by machines, it's always handpicked. And because it's handpicked and they also include buds in there and not just the leaves, it's actually way trickier to pick it up. So because it's trickier to pick it up, the labor is harder. The labor is more like trained and like careful about what they're doing. So in that sense, it's a little more expensive. It tends to be more expensive because of that. So white tea is the tea that is the least processed. After that, green tea and yellow tea is processed exactly the same way, or the same, like it's 3 steps after the picking up, but it changes, like what makes, so if you cook it a little more, it becomes a little more green, and if you don't, it has like a yellowish taste, a yellowish tone. So it's just the amount of time that you're gonna like grill your leaves, if I remember correctly. I think it's the grilling part that is different. So you're gonna spend a little less time grilling your leaves in order to retain a yellowish taint rather than a green taint. But technically, in terms of processing, they're exactly the same thing. Then you have oolong tea, then you'd have black tea, and the last one is the puer tea, which is making it kind of like making your tea into a black tea and then just aging it. So you ferment it, you compressed it into stuff. It looks like little cookies. They're about the size of like my little like my little like sound boomer here, like the on my mic, that, you know, the pop thing. It's about this big. It's about the same thickness, which is like, you know, I guess like a cell phone thick kind of thing. And they just put that into like I don't know, like little like paper wraps and like whatever, and then they leave it in a very like old kind of like basement. You know, these kind of like basements that it's like, imagine that you would dig a basement, but you would not put concrete. Like, it's still very much like raw dirt on the floor. So they would put the thing in there and let it age in there for years. Like they would do for wine, for example, but wine you age it, you know, like in barrels and all that stuff. Like they don't do that. They just put it into that thing, then they make it age. And it's it has a very, so a lot of the puer tea, because it aged in such a damp, moist, earthy environment for so long, it actually becomes the taste of the tea becomes like permeated with that exact taste. So puer tea tends to be very earthy in terms of feeling, but it has very interesting properties. Like puer tea is known to be very good for digestion. And because it's very good for digestion and it helps your body digest, you know, like bad stuff, whatever in your body very well, it used to be recommended for like if you wanted to lose weight in the 70s, like 70s and 80s, if you wanted to lose weight, there was huge kind of like campaigns of like, you want to lose weight, buy our tea. It's like the slim tea and like whatever. And they would do it with puer tea, but it wouldn't actually make you slimmer. It would just literally help you digest better, which could have that effect, but it's really not like a direct correlation between the two. So because the process is different for each tea, and because it leads up to them being very different in terms of taste, in terms of color, in terms of texture, in terms of all of that stuff, then each of these teas, each of these different kinds of tea, from white to puer tea, needs to be brewed according to its kind. So different types of tea require particular kinds of brewing techniques in order to like make all of the properties of the tea relevant to the way you want to drink it. So white tea doesn't have the same properties as black tea in your body. Although it is the same leaf, it doesn't have the same property. And the principle is easy, and I actually talked about it in the beginning of the stream when I was cooking the fishes and stuff. It's like in pretty much any, you know, like food related stuff in general, like food related knowledge, the more you process a food, the more you lose of its property. So it's like if you eat a raw carrot, you're gonna get like all of the properties that the carrot has to offer. If you cook a carrot, you're not gonna get the full properties of the carrot, because the carrot, the carrot is being modified when it's being cooked, and because it's being modified, it changes the properties that you're gonna get into it, and you actually most of the time you lose property when you cook stuff. So not only is the tea leaf going through a process that makes them lose property or change property over time. So from white tea doesn't have the same property as puer tea. They have different ones. At the same time, the way you brew your tea is also going to affect how you're going to be able to extract the full properties of the tea. So if you brew your white tea the exact same way that you brew your black tea, you're basically going to burn your leaf. And because you're going to burn your leaf, you're not going to be able to actually really get the full property of what the leaf has to offer. So there are particular kind of like ideal brewing temperatures depending on the tea and depending on the kind of tea that aligns with like what you're trying to do and like whatever. So if you're just trying to consume it for the taste and you don't care about, you know, like extracting the actual health benefits of the tea leaf, then you might just want to like not complicate your life and just brew it all the same temperature, like whatever. But at least it's like, if you do that, you should also know that you're not getting the full benefit of what the tea has to offer. And so, like, for example, if you brew, just to give you a cue, most white tea should be brewed at 75 degrees, and it should be brewed between 5 to 7 minutes. Japanese green tea should be brewed at 75 degree, and you should brew it for 4 minutes, not more than 4 minutes, between 3 and 4. But Chinese green tea should be brewed at 85 degrees for 4 minutes. So the region changes the principle, the kind of tea changes the brewing techniques, and so everything is very kind of like subtle. It doesn't have to be like, I'm making it sound like super scientific and complicated right now, but the idea is, in this video that I'm going to do, I'm going to go very much into the really fundamental basics of what I just explained, not in as much detail as I just did. And you're going to have really like a tutorial, like a live tutorial as well, of being like, hey, like, here is a table that you can follow at any point. Here's a table, like white tea, 75 degree, 5 minutes. Green tea, like 75 degree, 4 minutes. Black tea is 100 degree or 95 degrees, 4 to 5 minutes. So I'm going to give you that template, so you'll be able to just know exactly how you're supposed to brew your tea. And I'm also going to be able, in case you don't have some fancy like tea gear like I have a kettle that you can actually choose the temperature that you want. If you don't have fancy gear like this, I'm actually going to give you a trick to be able to know when your temperature is at the right level without using a thermometer, to know when your water is going to be at the right level for you to be able to know when it's time to put it onto your tea leaves so that you brew it at the proper temperature. So anyway, it's all going to be about giving you this knowledge that most people know, this kind of history behind it and whatever. But there's a huge culture around tea in China and in Japan, and I don't know much about Korea, to be honest. But I'm guessing there must be remnants of that in Korea as well. And so again, there's the temperature that I just mentioned, right? There's the temperature, there's the brewing time, there's all of that stuff. But it doesn't end there, because what I just told you about how to brew your tea at this particular temperature assumes that you're drinking your tea in a cup like this, in this kind of like really big cup, or like in a mug, or in a teapot, this kind of like big British style teapots that sometimes you'll see me on stream having this like teapot and like drinking from it. But over there on my shelf, and you can't really see it because of my overlay, but over there on my shelf, these two red shelves there, I don't think maybe if I do this, maybe you're gonna see it more. I'm just trying to okay, so you see these two shelves right there, okay? These are exclusively teacups and teapots. And I have a specific teapot to brew a specific kind of tea. So I only brew my black tea in that same teapot. I only brew my green tea in the same teapot. And I'm going to explain why in that video, why I do this. In particular, teapots are very good at like enhancing the tea, the tastes and properties and like whatever particular teas. They're made for that. They've been adjusted. But it's also the whole thing about like the tea ceremony, like when you do matcha, which I'm also going to explain on stream how to do a matcha tea ceremony, which is going to be another video, but like I'm going to put it out there eventually. So the idea is like the whole brewing process is very ceremonial, and it's a very social, like it's like a social ceremony, right? So like you would meet with someone, you would receive someone to your house, and as a mark of hospitality or whatever, you would offer tea. And there's a way for you to brew tea in a particular way that is very much like, it's lengthy, it takes a lot of time, it requires patience, and there's an entire aesthetic around it, of a appreciation of the process of the brewing techniques and like whatever, which you can discuss with your host and with your interlocutor as you're going through it. And it used to be used when people would like meet for like political discussion, for example, in Japan for the longest time, when you would have like two lords that are they're literally at war. You have two lords that are at war that are kind of like, hey, would you like to see if we can have a resolution to this conflict, like a peaceful revolution? They would meet in like one lord would invite the other one to their place, and then they would go to the tea house and they would just drink tea as they're trying to have a peaceful resolution to their conflict. So tea was kind of like a social medium of like peaceful conflict resolution. And the way you would produce your tea, the way you would go about making your tea, if you would like botch it and if you would like not care about the ceremonial aspect of the tea, it means that you're not really showing respect to the other person that's there. And if you're not showing respect, it means that you can't really trust their decision, that they're going to hold on to their honor with respect to the decision that's going to happen with regards to the war. So there is a lot of like cultural, social components around tea that just most people are completely unaware of, because what we've inherited from tea is basically just like the British tea tradition that is about like consuming massive amount of tea like it's coffee. And a lot of our heritage, the cultural heritage of the Western world is tea, is to treat tea like it's coffee. But it's not the same thing. It doesn't have the same property and doesn't work the same way biologically in your body. It doesn't does the same thing. It does, it's like it's a complete different world. It is an actually complete different world. And the Western world is they don't know about that stuff because they, like we just learned the kind of cultural appropriation way of brewing tea, not the actual authentic way that was there. And the way I know how to drink tea is specifically the East Asian way. So the Chinese and Japanese way of brewing tea is the way that I know. But like I remember speaking with one of my Turkish friend, and she told me that like there is a huge like tea culture in Turkey, and there's something with respect to like wedding. So I'm gonna do more research before like putting it out on the video, obviously. But I think there is something in related. I'm just gonna like say like what's on my mind, but please take this with a grain of salt. Like don't take it out of context, because I'm really just going off of memory from a few years back at this point. And what she told me was that when a woman would get married, she would have to give gifts to the husband's family. And a lot of the time, oh no, was it something like that? Or anyway, there would be a gift exchange. I think it's the other way around. There would be a gift exchange between the two family or the two people involved in the marriage. And if the tea, and a lot of that would be like tea would be part of that gift, there would be the main gift or something like that. So you would have to give like really kind of like high quality, fancy tea or something like that. And it used to be a thing that if actually the tea that they would give you would be like shitty, crappy tea that they don't care, like that would be reason enough to cancel the wedding. Like there used to be an actual really real social like power dynamic at play between like families that are kind of like, and people that are being wedded to one another, surrounding gift giving around tea. And anyway, again, I don't want to dig too much into it because I'm really going off of memory. I don't want to give too much like false information or something, but it's like it's a story that we have about tea that just doesn't reach our ears. Like most people don't know about that stuff. And I think that like in many different cases, at least the stories that I know from coming from East Asia, the stories around tea are actually very beautiful. And they're a very insightful way of having a little sneak peek into a different way of experiencing the world, a different way of engaging with something that for us, because of our commodified capitalist world, like for us, tea is just a beverage. And it's a beverage that tastes good. And it's a beverage that You know, like that's just our relationship to tea. But for many different places around the world, that's not their relationship to tea. And it's a way that we can enter to that different world. Like if you want to have, like sometimes it, like I do that myself, or I have these kind of like feelings when I do it. It's like, you know, like if you brew it the traditional way, if you brew it using the traditional techniques and the ancient teapots, like one of the teacups that I have over there, actually I'm gonna go pick it up. Okay, you see this? This teacup right here. Okay? This teacup right here is actually museum piece. So you see, this is the logo of the people, the family that makes this, a family that makes the teacup. They make teapot, they make teacups, they make whatever. It's a family that, if I remember correctly, like I'm not, like, I actually kind of want to look it up now. Water. I think it's like, I'm not sure, but I think it's oh, it's Ohi. Ohi. Oh, let me put it back. Okay, so the Ohi family in Japan is like one of the most known tea potters in Japanese history. And the reason for that is because in like the medieval, like what we consider to be the medieval period, but like technically it's the Edo period, so from 16th century to the 1868, you have like the Maeda clan that lived in what is now Ishikawa prefecture. So the Maeda clan in Japanese history was one, I think it was at some point it was the second richest clan in Japan after the shogun. So for those who don't know, the shogun is basically the it's a military governor. So it's like a general, if you think about it that way. It's a general that the title, the office of shogun, actually had like real political decision-making power in Japanese history for about 600 years. So from 700 years. So from 1192 to 1868, the real political decision-making power in Japan was basically held by the shogun and not by the emperor. The emperor was still there. He was still running. You know, like the family was still a thing. The imperial institution was still there. But the emperor did not have real decision, like real true decision, political decision-making power. That lay in the hands of the shogun. So the shogun was like the richest family. The family of the shogun was the richest family in Japan. But like the second richest family after him for a bit was the Maeda clan, the Maeda family. And the Maeda family, the thing that made them so rich was actually because of the place that they were living. So in Ishikawa prefecture, there is a city called Kanazawa. And Kanazawa is where, when I lived in Japan, that's where I lived. I lived in Kanazawa. That's why I know that story so well. And Kanazawa, the kanji, the way you write Kanazawa, it's like a golden marsh. Because it's like, this place used to be a very swampy kind of like marsh kind of like area. But it used to be filled with gold. It's like the main source of gold in Japanese history. Like, and even to this day, 99% of high quality gold in Japan is produced in Kanazawa. So the Maeda clan had access to all of this incredible high quality gold, and it made them incredibly rich. And they invested all of the money because it was starting to be like peaceful era. So the 16th century to 1868, there was not a lot of wars in Japan. There were conflicts and all that stuff, but they were not like crazy wars as they were like in the wartime periods. That's called a Sengoku Jidai, which a lot of like medieval stuff like games and stuff like that are based on the Sengoku Jidai, which is like the wartime period. But whenever that was solved, it was which is happened in 1600. The Tokugawa family took power of Japan, and they basically ruled until the Tokugawa clan ruled until 1868. So for 250 years, the same clan, the same family ruled the Japan through being the shogun. And because they kind of like managed to stabilize and pacify most of Japan, then most of the country was relatively at peace because they were all under the control of like this one family. So during this time of peace, the Maeda clan, and also they're a little bit more like farther, they're like up north, and they're like, you know, Japan, it looks like an elbow, right? Like it looks like this. Maybe on stream you're gonna see it the other way, but you'll see what I mean. So Japan kind of looks like this, and here you have the Pacific Ocean, and here you have like the inside of Japan, and you have like Korea and China. It's here. That's just, yeah. And this is the Sea of Japan. So Kanazawa is kind of like right in the middle of the elbow towards the Sea of Japan. So it's like about 5 hours like north of Osaka or Kyoto. To give you like a little like geographical area. So a lot of the fighting that happened even in Sengoku Jidai or whatever did not really reach them. They were kind of a little they managed to be a little more kind of like reclused and closed off from like all these really big intense wars, which allowed them to like not only accumulate a lot of money, so that's one, but it's not just about accumulating money, it's also like they didn't have to spend a lot of that money on military. So they had a lot of money and they spent it on something, but what they choose to spend it on was actually arts and culture. So they had incredible tea districts, and tea district is basically geisha districts. They just and geisha are not prostitutes. Like so geisha districts, which is like entertainment district if you want, had places that are called like tea houses, and they had like incredible like rich people that would like go there for like entertainment with like really expensive geishas with really expensive, they would drink in really expensive teaware and very expensive whatever. So it would be like a lavish place where culture, theater, comedy, art, like woodblock printing and like stuff like that, poetry and all of that stuff would flourish in these incredibly rich districts of like a bunch of like rich aristocratic people like gathering together in this space that was like free of war and had a lot of like investment, and they were trying to attract. So basically what happened with the Ohi family, the pottery family, is that this guy, the guy Maeda clan, the guy that was leading the Maeda clan at a certain time was kind of like, hey, we have a lot of money, we want to invest it into something. So I would like to order one of the best potter, a guy that does pottery, right? One of the best potter in Japan. And I would like to make them come to Japan, to Kanazawa, and I would like them to do some pottery for me. Like it would just produce some, you know, cups and teacups and like whatever for me. And so someone named Ohi, I have like Waka or something in mind, whatever, don't like take this with a grain of salt obviously, but the whole Ohi family, he came all the way to Kanazawa. He did a tea ceremony with his own like utensils and teapots and teacups, and the Maeda guy was so impressed by how beautiful and artistic and aesthetically pleasing and whatever it was that he basically hired this Ohi guy to be the official potter of the Maeda clan. So one of the richest clan in Japanese history, that is called the Maeda clan, one of the richest clan of Japanese history had their own potter that was called Ohi, and this potter eventually taught his son to do it, and from generation to generation they taught how to do pottery. And this Ohi family had a very, very, very unique way to do pottery. And by unique, I mean it has a particular technique to be able to heat up the fires, the fires to do pottery all the way to like about 800, I think it's 800 or 900 degrees Celsius. And so they would heat it up to very high temperature, like 800, 900 degree. And because of that really high temperature, they managed to get a very, very, such a beautiful, like glaze looking on their pottery. But it's also what allowed them, with a mix of particular earths, like particular minerals that they used, they're able to get this really, really, really beautiful caramel color into their pottery. And it's like their trademark is, as you saw in the cup that I showed you, it's like this very, actually I'm going to pick it up again. So you see this like very, very like caramel looking thing, but it's not just like the color like caramel. It's like there's a beautiful glaze, but it's like you see like this brown thing here. It kind of like, it like drips down a little bit. You know, it has that like drippy feeling to it. It has this smooth, and it's like a little spotted in the background. Even inside, if you look, I don't know if you can see because of the lighting, but if you look inside, like this part here at the bottom, you can see that there is this like huge like drip and stuff that goes into the bottom. And so this very like drippy feeling coming from this like caramel based color is like trademark of Ohi pottery. Oh, and in case you missed it, again, this is their kamon, so their like logo. So the logo of the Ohi family is this thing here, this little like bits right there. Okay. So all of that to say that these guys became, so it's like the official potters of one of the most culturally flourishing, so one of the most culturally flourishing place in Japanese history is Kanazawa City, which is by far my favorite place in all of Japan is Kanazawa. I do have a sweet spot for Kanazawa because that's where I lived, that's where I studied and all of that stuff. So it's kind of like, of course it has a special place in my heart because there's a personal attachment to the place from my own experiences. But if you take out the personal component attached to the city, it is such a beautiful city. It's like, it's a perfect mix of like, it's like a trademark of many different places in Japan. A lot of people that are interested into Japanese culture see that as something very, like it's a very Japanese things that you see in their cities. That it's like, you have a juxtaposition of traditional and modern, like right by one another. So you can have this like, it's like typical example at this point, I guess, but you have like, you know, like, so one of the, like part of the, like, I guess like aboriginal religion of Japan, the indigenous religion to Japan is called Shinto. And it's not historically accurate to call it Shinto, but I don't want to go on this tangent right now. I might do a video, an educational video on that at some point, but not now. So for the sake of this video, for the sake of this stream, let's just say it's Shinto, okay? So Shinto, you can have like, and Shinto is like, it's like the religion that's aboriginal to Japan. It's like a very old thing. And like in the middle, it's like a thing where, like, for example, in the middle of, I think it's Toyota. I think it's, I don't know if it's Honda or Toyota. I don't remember which one of the two. But in the middle, at the heart of one of their literally like automobile factory. So you have this like factory of Honda that they produce car. In the middle of it, you would have like an ancient like a ancient looking Shinto shrine right in the middle of like the factory. Or you would have like literally like a 10 stories building, like a modern 10 stories building made of concrete and like AC and like all of that stuff. And on top of it, you'd have like a Shinto shrine that you can just really go and pray, or like a, you know, and it's just like you have these juxtaposition of like ancient and new, one by one another, right by one another, and people they don't see it as problematic. I mean, most people don't nowadays. Some people do, but not everyone. And Kanazawa, it's like a really a prime example of that. Like the main street, I might be showing pictures at some point, you know, like either like on stream, or I could show like on YouTube when I'm gonna be making videos and stuff. But it's like the main street makes you feel like you're in a kind of like modern, really cool, stylish European country. You actually have stores that are like, I don't know, like H&M, Zara, but you also stuff that looks like almost like Prada, kind of like, you know, like kind of labels. Not really, but it's like the feeling of like a kind of like a Prada vibe, for example, or a Chanel or whatever. And then you'd have you have like, you know, like in the middle of a, I remember that because I went there once and actually I really liked it. It was a really cool place. It's like you walk on the main street, it's full like really beautiful building, like glass, you know, building, like dark colors, like screens and lights, and like you would kind of imagine, you know, like modern Japan to look like. If people are a fan of that kind of like aesthetics of Japanese modern city, like Shibuya, Harajuku, and all these places. And so you have that in Kanazawa that makes you feel like a very high-end modern city. Well, like, so in that one building you go in, it's actually just like it's like a building. It's like people work there. But then on the third floor, there is like a really beautiful jazz bar. So it's like you sit there, you can have like ice cream with like funky, like fancy coffee, you know, like not like, you know, like whatever, just like really fancy high-end coffee. And like really funky ice cream and drinks and like whatever. And it's just that the place just plays like really cool, calmful, peaceful jazz music in a very modern environment, by the like, and you can sit by the windows and you see like the main street. And it's, anyway, it's super like super cool, super modern, super amazing. And 10-minute walk from there, you have a like authentic samurai district. So back in the day, it was a like places where samurai would have their houses built there, and some of the houses are still there, like intact, and the streets and the districts, like the streets, the foundations, whatever, are the same as when that district was like built. I think it was in like the 16th or 17th century. Which is like 10 minutes away from that amazing jazz bar, modern looking place I just talked about. And it's like that everywhere. You see something amazing, it looks so modern, so cool, and then you turn around and you have this freaking old like temple that's like 400 years old. And it's just right there. And it's so like intertwined, and so, and like you have these like really cool stores. You know, like you have these just, I don't know, like a really like cool looking stuff, like store like in the middle, close to like the downtown, around like where the train station is and like whatever. And then there you can actually pop in and you can learn to do like arts and crafts. And I did my own art. It's like over there. It's like I painted like I did some kimpaku, which is like really thin gold leaves. And you just shape the gold leaves. So you like stick it on a like I decided to choose a plate, but you can choose like a cup. You can choose many things, and or like a pen or something. And you stick it on there, like you draw something, and you just make it your own art. So in my mind, it was kind of like, hey, instead of sorry, I'm back. There was my other computer where I look at like chat and stuff like that was actually close, so I need to reactivate it. So this place it's like, instead of like, so my mind was like, instead of going there and just buying a souvenir, how about I just make my own? So in the middle of, like, you know, the place, whatever, you can just go there, and there's that really amazingly cute, super welcoming place that just teaches you to just do your own arts and craft in a way that is very, very, very Kanazawa-like. So if you remember, I said earlier that Kanazawa has 99% of like all like high quality gold in Japan. I kind of lied. It's not entirely true. It's like, it's not just the gold, it's the kinpaku specifically. So the kinpaku is like really thin. It's like 1 millimeter thick gold sheet. And 99%, and usually you kind of like not lacquer it, but like you kind of like paste it on products, and you make art with it. So a lot of arts that use kinpaku, the Japanese like really thin gold leaves, 99% of high quality gold leaves, so high quality kinpaku, is produced in Kanazawa. So a lot of their art revolves around kinpaku. So you could go out there and buy like a pen, for example, a pen that has a really cool drawing, like some kanji or whatever on it, that is made out of kinpaku. And it's like, the fact that you see kinpaku, you should, in your head, you should associate that, oh, it's most likely coming from Kanazawa. So I said, hey, I'm just going to do my own instead of buying my thing. And I just personalized it. I did it with, actually, I'm going to go pick it up. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is what I did. This is what I did, chat. So what you see here is you have this plate, right? And then I stuck like the gold leaf. This is the kinpaku. The gold part is actually like pasted there. And then it's, after that, you just lacquer it on top to protect it. But what you see is this thing is actually the Maeda clan sign. So if you would go into Japan and you see, sometimes they do stuff like on pieces of armor, of clothing, or whatever, there's like a round thing with like a drawing in it. Usually these are called, they're called kamon. They're like clan signs. So the clan sign of the Maeda clan is this. So I was like, listen, I'm in the city of Kanazawa, which was run by the Maeda clan that uses kinpaku to make their art, which is a trademark of the city. I was like, I cannot make an art that doesn't have the Maeda clan sign on it. So I decided to do this little offset because it's part of like Japanese aesthetics. And in the corner here, in the other corner, I actually wrote the kanji for Kanazawa. So this is how you write Kanazawa in Japanese. So the Golden Marsh, right? I see the Golden Marsh, but a Gold Marsh. Anyway. All right, we're back. So, basically, I created that. It was like really cool, but it's this idea of like, you know. And last time I went in Kanazawa, I was walking into the street. I was walking into the main street, and it was my last day there before like traveling to like different places. Like, I walked into the main street and I was like, oh, there's like a cool store. Like I've never noticed this store before. It's literally it just feels like any other store, you know, like it was a store, but it was a store about like cups and teapots. And as you can notice from this stream, I am very much into tea stuff and tea culture. So I was like, okay, let me take a look. Like, you know, maybe they have something unique and fancy and like whatever. I was like, let's see what they have to offer. But I didn't really expect much. So I walk in, and then there's this really cute old lady that just welcomes me. And she's so nice, and she's so like cute and talkative and like whatever. And then she shows me like a picture. It's like a catalog, and these teapots are there, and they're so beautiful. These teacups, like the one that you saw, it's like they're so beautiful and like whatever. And then she starts talking to me, and she explains to me the obviously like she speaks Japanese, like she doesn't speak English whatsoever, but it's like she would explain to me like, and she would show me picture, and she'd be like, oh, that used to be that used to be like my father and like, you know, whatever. And then she explains to me the whole genealogy. And when I kind of like did my own research and looked it up after, I realized, oh my God, I was like, this is the official store of the Ohi family, that they display their pottery here. Well, like there's literally a, like, I'm not kidding you, there's literally a Ohi pottery museum in Kanazawa that is dedicated to the pottery of this family exclusively, as the official potter of the Maeda clan, that is still running. Right now, I think it's like the 14th generations of master of the Ohi family, from the original guy that went there in like the 17th century to teach the Maeda lord like how to do tea and the tea ceremony, like all of that stuff, when he became the official potter of the family. It's the 14th descendant, direct descendant of this guy. They still have their store where you can go there and buy. And that's what I did. I bought this teacup that you can also use as a sake cup if you want to, but it's like I use it for tea, obviously. So it's like you're literally walking into a store that for me was like nothing. I never thought nothing of this particular store. I never even noticed it before. And then I walk in and was like, oh my God, I can't, like, buying this teacup is literally the equivalent of owning a piece of museum. You're literally owning a piece of Japanese history. It's incredible, which has such a rich and beautiful history behind it. So anyway, I just, you know, like, I was so pumped. I was so happy. It was absolutely incredible. And I just couldn't, you know, like, I just couldn't believe it when I saw that thing. And this is just, you know, it's like, I don't know, like when you start appreciating these things and noticing these things, and obviously you have to be into that kind of stuff. Like, it's not everybody can or wants to be into that stuff. But like, to just appreciate the, you know, like the complexity and the deepness and the richness of these cultural histories that oftentimes we're completely unaware of. And to be honest, the reason why we're completely unaware of, it's because we are disconnected from their history, because their histories have been stolen by colonists. You know, it's like you had, you know, like white people going into like South Asia, for example, and going to like India, Sri Lanka, and these other places, and they would like force them to produce tea, right? And they did it on purpose. They just like, we're gonna force you guys to produce coffee, and we're gonna force you guys to produce tea. So they tried tea, they liked it, and then they thought it was a really cool, unique commodity that they could bring from the colonies in the kind of very, you know, like Orientalist way. They just thought it was cool because it was like, you know, different and unique and like whatever. And then they started consuming it in the same way that they consume pretty much any other kinds of beverage that like made sense to them at that time. But when they did that, when the colonists appropriated and took these things, then they, like, the history of that was just gone with it, you know. And what we've inherited was not the actual history of tea leaves, of teacups, of teapots, and the aesthetic beauty and things that surrounds it, and the whole social ceremonial arrangement and even political arrangement that you can have around tea. All of that was just gone, you know, because now it's just about like drinking it like you drink coffee when you wake up in the morning. And like, there is a tea culture. I know there is a tea culture around, like, you know, in England, that you literally have like tea time, which is like you actually take a break during the day to like sit down and chill and savor your tea and stuff. Like, they have their own tea culture, but it's not the same. It's not the same thing. I'm not trying to hierarchize saying like one way of doing tea is better than the other one. That's one of the beauty of tea, I guess. The way it's evolving is that you can't just make it the way that you want. You can adjust it to your taste, you can adjust it to your needs, to what you're trying to get out of the experience, or something like that, where it's really just a good taste or it's actual kind of like philosophical artistic experience. But it's still very sad that these stories and these histories and these cultures has been like non-existent to us, because we've only heard about the colonist interpretation of whatever they decided to bring back. You know, and I think it's part of my, you know, journey as an academic, as a researcher, as a philosopher, as a political theorist that is trying to dismantle, you know, kind of like structures of oppression and problematic, what I perceive to be problematic ways of being in the world that leads to the perpetuation of oppression and all these things. I think it's important that we remember these, you know, take the time to genuinely engage and remember from a non kind of like judgmental way and like whatever, that we engage with these histories that have been stolen, you know, and give them the proper, you know, like kind of the proper engagement that they deserve, and that we let these stories speak to us and not just keep stealing the stories, you know, like all over again, you know, for our own reasons. So I think it's to go to these places, like I've been when I was in Japan, to go to these places and have, you know, like have the people, like have the, you know, like the granddaughter of the potter, like the Ohi potter, like tell me and share with me that story that I can now share with you guys is part of the like incredible experience that's been part of my learning journey in academia and in venturing into this the history of culture and everything about the East Asian world. And it's a big part of like, you know, like what I want to do with this channel in general is doing that. Like I want to like expose the world to like histories that have been forgotten, and oftentimes there's so many things, you know, like around the world that is you know, like, how can I say this? By the way, there's 5 minutes left on my water breeding buff, so I know I keep opening these cages and I've yet to see the pole drop, the fishing pole drop. So we're gonna try again for 5 minutes, and if it's not done in the next 5 minutes, we're gonna end the stream and we're gonna pick it up tomorrow. So tomorrow we're gonna do round 2 of trying to get this fishing pole from these little cages underwater. So yeah, like it is part of this channel of what I'm trying to do, and like whatever, to open up people's minds to different possibilities of seeing the world. So, and I think that, like, just take the example like what I just did right now in this conversation we've been having around tea, and it's kind of like you can see tea as a commodity, you can see tea as a drink, you can see tea as just something you like to drink in the morning when you wake up because it's supposed to like start your day up by giving you energy because it has caffeine. But we saw that this is wrong, so don't do it. Well, you can do it because it's fun and you like it, but the caffeine thing is just ridiculous. Anyway, you know, you can do it for that if you want, but like you can also have a radically new experience that opens new possibilities of seeing tea in a complete different way. And it's in a way that actually resonates with an entire civilization. You know, it's like tea can become a kind of portal to a different period of time, to a different like culture that has particular norms, different norms than us. They're not necessarily the right one. They're not necessarily like non-oppressive norms. Sometimes they're very norms that are still very sexist, patriarchal, and all of that stuff. But they're still like different, and they give you a sense of what a radically different experience of the same thing can feel like. And just having this experience of like you see the same thing but you experience differently can show you how, you know, volatile the concept of truth is, and how all of the many different things that you've learned about this world, about what is true in this world. Like, if I can engage with tea in a different way, that makes me understand it in a different way that I've never done before. It means, why wouldn't it be the same for something different? Why wouldn't it be different that I would engage with another concept like, I don't know, like politics or like friends or like relationships in a complete different way? I just need to be able to shift my perspective around it. I need to shift the register. I need to change the ideology which influences my decision. And like this, using tea in my mind is just one way, one very, I think, clever, unique, and interesting way to show you how once you actually have this information that is available, it's available if you take the time to read it, it's available if you have someone to tell you these stories, which a lot of time we don't, because it's monopolized by, you know, like white supremacist ideologies that don't simply want to tell these stories, or they tell it in a way that, oh my god, you have to be kidding me. We finally got the big iron fishing pole. I've been doing this for literally 1 hour. It's the end of the stream. I literally said, like, in 5 minutes, if I don't get this pole, I'm finishing the stream and I continue tomorrow. What are we doing? There's 30 minutes left on my buff and we just got the fishing pole. What freaking timing is this? This is like, you know, like some kind of like universe science shit stuff, you know? That's that kind of stuff. It's a message that we're doing the right thing and on the right path. Look at that. Oh, this is beautiful. Yeah, so I think I want to use these different, like, I want to use my knowledge of East Asian culture and East Asian philosophy, East Asian history, particularly the Japanese one, because that's really my field. I know about China because it's really hard to understand. It's really hard to understand, like, Japanese culture without understanding its Chinese influence. So oftentimes they're intertwined. But my specialty is Japan, but I can talk about China because of that connection that I just mentioned. And sorry, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna go just chatting mode for the rest of this sentence. So, like, I want to be able to use all of the stuff that I've accumulated, and if you don't know, like, my dissertation right now, my dissertation work is actually, it's on classical Japan, and I am translating like actual work of Japanese work that has been written in like the 13th century. I basically translate key authors, very important authors of Japanese history that wrote between 1000 and 1300. And like, so I can read. I taught myself how to read and translate classical Japanese from modern Japanese. So I read the classical text in the classical language with the classical subtleties and all that stuff, and, you know, whatever. And I translate that, and all of that knowledge of, like, you know, it allows me to see the world in a way. You know, we were talking earlier about the T guy, A side, that just saw, you know, T as kind of like, you know, like, T is connected with like the 5 elements, which is connected with the 5 internal organs and like the 5 tastes and like all that stuff. Like, all this knowledge, it's a radically different way of understanding the world. And it's such a different way. It might not be the way that resonates with you. It might not be the way we should go about in the future, because I don't have these answers. But I think that if you only see the world through this like neoliberal, capitalist, white, patriarchal, white supremacist, patriarchal, you know, heterophobic perspective, then it's really hard to imagine a prosperous future where, you know, like, equality can be reached, when oppression is being diminished and stuff. So I think being able to experience, having a feeling of, hey, I can imagine something different that is not capitalist, because all of these works and the stuff that I'm talking about, they're all works that have been written by people that did not live when capitalism existed. So you want to have a view of what it could feel like to imagine the world outside of a capitalist framework of how the world works. And you have it. There are so many information. I focused on East Asia, but you have indigenous people that have so much knowledge to storytelling that has been given to generations and generations, that have this vision of what it could feel like to be outside of, you know, the narratives that we know and the stories that we've been told and the ideologies that we operate under. And I think it's such an important step that we need to do if we want to be able to create a future where we can have different possibilities and different imagination of what a world can look like. So a big part of this channel is having these conversations, is me talking about this stuff, and it's about trying to engage with you and give you this different knowledge and interest and exchange on different perspective, and have, you know, like, arguments and commentaries about like how, you know, like, what can we do with this, and how can we grow, and what are we learning from this, and how can we use that to critique particular current perspective. And like, you know, we finally got our fishing pole. Like, we actually did it. Like, you know, I didn't think it would take so long, but we did it. But actually took the time from like that kind of like not super crazy interesting stream of just looking for that fishing pole to actually be able to do a little bit of that. And hopefully this, it was a long conversation. It was basically a monologue for almost like an hour and a half, but like it should give you a little idea of like what you're gonna get from this channel. So if you like these conversations, if you like me sharing my stories and my knowledge about East Asian cultures, about how it can affect you, what kind of like experience, like, you know, that my own stories behind it and how you can relate to it too, and how we can exchange on that and stuff. If you want to, if you like this kind of conversation, these kind of educational, philosophical conversations, then like this is the channel for you, and you're always going to be welcome in these spaces to have any conversations about these topics, as long as it's respectful, welcome. So obviously, I'm not going to accept topics as long as it's respectful, welcome. So obviously, I'm not going to accept, you know, like racism, sexism, homophobia, and like etc. etc. So if you're coming here to have a genuine conversation about these things in a respectful manner, like this is a place for it. We can have these conversations. I'm gonna make educational content on YouTube for you to see. You can go check my YouTube on Fugeki22. And but if you like the content I'm putting on YouTube and you would like to have just like a live conversation with me, then this is where you find me. This is on my stream. I stream on YouTube and Twitch, like basically at the same time. So whether you want to contact me through coming in the live chat on YouTube when I'm stream, or just pop in on Twitch, you have way more interactive options on Twitch to stuff to do. You have like loyalty points that you can get that I've called Fugekis. So you actually accumulate Fugekis while you're on the channel, and you get to spend them into fun games, into like slot machines, and you can like get to eventually maybe even to pick like music but using your points and do like funky stuff and whatnot. So like these are all stuff that is available on Twitch. So if you want to have this kind of like more like streaming experience, more complete streaming experience, like Twitch is a really excellent platform for that. But if you're just there for the conversation, you can always pop on my YouTube and it's going to be there as well. So folks, thank you very much to have been here. Thank you to have listened to my monologue around tea and Japanese culture and history for like, you know, an hour and a half. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. You're going to be getting a lot of these on this channel, but my hope is that there won't always be monologues, and that like people are going to pop in, they're going to share their experience, they're going to share their interests, they're going to ask questions, that will be able to have more of a conversation going on. And whenever you're going to see my videos out, my YouTube content or my stream content, whatever, like pop in or go into my comment section, like follow, get notifications to see when I'm live so we can have these conversations. But go into my comment section and say like, hey Fugeki, I would love if you could talk about that. Like, I'd be very passionate to know what you know about these things, or what are your thoughts about that. You can ask me live in chat while I'm on Twitch or when I'm on YouTube. Just come in and be like, hey Fugeki, like what do you think about that stuff? And then we can have almost like a one-on-one conversation on that if you prefer it that way. So please, like, this channel is not just for me to be here and like, you know, like talk about that stuff. Like a lot of it is also, I want to be able to tailor it a little bit to like what you guys want to hear and what you folks want to, what you're interested about. And that way we can exchange on that. So please come and share that with me. I would highly appreciate it. But folks, this is the end. I'm shutting down my monologue. We're closing the stream. We're going to be there tomorrow night, same time, 10:30 until 12, maybe a little extra, but usually we try to finish it around 12 as much as possible. So thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Have a great night.